on the recording, and then I will be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Okay.
Alright. So first thing I would be doing here, when I'm just rolling out of spawn, especially on a map like this, is looking for potential boops, as I know that, that bridge area is very, very easy to boop someone off, alright? So,
Yeah, for sure.
getting out here, like, the first thing I'm noticing is that we kind of, like, take our time while getting there, and we kind of climb this thing, and then we kind of waltz, roll, like, kind of slowly roll over, and then when we come over this area, we could be setting up with a grapple on this wall and rolling them off this way, right? These guys, or we could be waiting for these guys to push through, right? That's all big option, but we kind of just instead we're just kind of rolling around, right? We're not really accomplishing much here. Um, when we probably potentially could have gone for a boop, but instead we didn't there. All right. Nice slam. Yeah, very nice. So to start off, we seemed a little bit slow, and then we started to pick it up. So the other thing was, like, kind of when we first went on the Ana, I probably would have liked to see another slam in there, but we kind of just rolled into her. So just a little bit slow of a start, and then it kind of picked up afterwards. So really, really nice on the follow up there. And now it looks like we're trying to set up for something. Okay. Alright, so we just gotta make sure we're paying really close attention to our grapples and how long we're holding on to them, as that's gonna, like, kind of dictate, where we're going. So if we hold on to it too long, that's a lot of the time that's where we're gonna get into trouble, is when we hold on to it for too long. Here, if we're trying to not go off the edge, we let go pretty much as soon as you're about to pass the wall where it's parallel to. So that would be, we're, like, basically right on this parallel. If we're trying to go straight forwards here, we're letting go in a second or two here, pretty much as soon as we're fireballing, right? But we hold on to it way, way too long, and then we kind of roll off the edge as a result. So we really need to be careful that we're not holding on to it for too long there. Ooh, very nice tech there.
Yeah, I went too early on that boop there.
Mm. Alright. Alright, so far we've had one of the big things I'm noticing is that we have a lot of times where we just sit around and don't really do anything, where we just kind of are being inactive. So that's what you call actions per minute. And when you compare, for example, like a bronze player versus a grandmaster's player, a grandmaster player is going to be doing things all the time, right? They're going to be efficient with every single second of the game. They're constantly either booping or slamming or shooting or looking, being aware of their surroundings or ulting, right? They're doing something. Whereas a bronze player is gonna, go and boop somebody, and then they're gonna kind of roll around, and then they're gonna, like, kind of admire the scenery, and then they're gonna go shoot at something, and then they're gonna take another long pause, right? So it's a lot less efficient with their time. And right now, the big thing I'm noticing is that we're not very efficient with our time, and there's a lot of time where we just kind of sit around not doing things, so kind of playing a little bit too passive. One thing I would say is that, like, when we're out of abilities, for example, this is where we could just de-ball and start shooting at things, right? I've seen us shoot at stuff only when we're slamming. That's the only time I've really seen it, or like right when we're on top of something. That's the only time I've seen us shoot at all. When there have been times where, for example, like when we're capping point here, right? When we were just kind of sitting here, we could have just been like right on the edge here, just shooting at them. And then if they tried to touch, we could have slammed them off, like booped them off. But instead, we just kind of like sat here. And there's a lot of times where we just sit around and don't do much. So far this game, like right at the beginning, like we could see. I'm just gonna fast forward this so we can see it, right? But right at the beginning, we sat around. So this whole time right here, we just sit around, sit around, sit around. Right now, we're doing something. We're doing something. Right, and then we do something. So this whole part we did something, so I'm going to skip forwards. All right, but then this whole time we're not doing anything. We just sit around, sit around. We could be just shooting at them if we wanted to. We could be like, for example, we could have like maybe rolled around this side and just rolled through them, just get some extra damage in. But we're just more of sitting around, right? We're going to see more of this in the next fight. We accidentally go off the map. Right, so skip forwards. And then you're going to notice here, again, we're going to sit around. Actually, let's skip forwards because we died here, so we're not going to count that. All right, so we come back in here, sit around, sit around. We could be shooting at things. We could, like, for example, the Echo who's right there, who's half HP. Like, we just whip out our gun and shoot at her there, and then she dies, right? There's no reason here where we, like, unless we're, like, low HP, there's no reason to not just be doing anything at all, because we're just kind of sitting on point, right? So sitting around, and then we roll through, we slam, right? And then now we're just sitting around. We have 600 HP, right? We could be shooting at stuff. We could be like looking for something to do, but instead we're just sitting around, right? Waiting for abilities, right? So and that's where now we're back to where we were before. We just want to make sure that we're actively doing things as often as possible because there's a lot of times where we're inactive. Now, of course, there are times where we're not going to play aggressive. Like, you're not going to be inside of them if you don't have any abilities, but you still want to be shooting at them, right? But you might also want to play passive when you don't have health. But there's been multiple times where we've just sat around doing nothing when we have all of our health, right? When you're 1 HP, that's a little bit different, right? If you're 1 HP and you're sitting over here, then that's different. That's a different story. You could be grabbing the health pack, you could go get healing, but it's the fact that we're not doing anything when there's no reason to not do anything, right? There's always a reason to play passive, but here there's no reason to play passive, and we're just doing it way too frequently, right? I like that we're not holding on to ults, and we used it at good timing here, and we got a kill out of it, so that was pretty good. Okay. I think grapples might need some work here, because we oftentimes looks like we're not really getting good fireballs going. We keep getting stuck on stuff, so maybe we'll talk about that. All right, so we're at 3 minutes. We're gonna just talk about how we can look to grapple a bit better, as well as maybe I'll go over like one other tech here. So, I guess let's go over the first tech, just as a techie thing to review. On ball, this is kind of the first thing that you did, that you can do when you're kind of walking out of spawn and you're trying to get somewhere fast. Is when you're trying to travel somewhere a very long distance. Basically, at the very end of your fireball, you can B-hop, right? So basically you spam your spacebar, and that's going to do is that's going to keep up your momentum and make you continue on with the fireball momentum. So this is if we just are rolling. Let's kind of watch us just rolling normally, right? You're going to see us roll normally, and then stop, right? And then roll, and then come to a complete stop where we're just rolling without the fireball, right? But if we B-hop, actually maybe we'll do like a turn here. So, I'm trying to find like the max length here we can do. I guess this is fine, but here you can see now how when we can spam jump, and then we're actually going to keep the momentum there at the end, right? So that can help you get further and travel a much further distance going fast, right? Because you can keep up that momentum and keep going. Right now, when it comes to grappling, make sure that we are grappling, that we're paying attention to our grapples, and when we're grappling, a lot of times we're letting go, right? So we're letting go as we're getting parallel with it, right? So if we, for example, hold on here, we'd be letting go at this point where we're about to pass it, or just a little bit past that point. If we hold on to it for too long, then it's going to pull us backwards and stop our momentum, and now we can't go any further, right? So this could, there's been a few times where we've kind of done this, and we've just kind of gotten stuck on the corner here, right? Where we're just kind of like, we lose our fireball momentum. So we want to make sure that we're letting go. So we're letting go in the corner here so that we can keep going with the fireball and not getting stuck on it. So just make sure we're timing the let go correctly. So we're letting go right there, right? It's basically you're letting go as soon as you're passing it. Or the other thing is if you're trying to turn a corner, for example, you're letting go when you're facing the direction you want to go. So here we're kind of letting go right as we're making that turn, right? So here, if we're, I guess let's do this, find another corner here, right? If we're trying to go this way, we're letting go when we're parallel to this. If we're trying to go over there, we're letting go when we're parallel to there, right? So we're kind of we're doing it differently. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Yeah.
All right, so then we can just go ahead and hop back into the game. Yeah, we were on. Oh, snap! So many. We were on Zhang.
Now arriving at Lijiang Tower, ready for battle.
We're like 3 minutes in, I believe. So like you can kind of see here, how we kind of get get stuck on stuff. I think we do it here in a second. We're kind of trying to swing around. Like, okay, so there we got it going. Very nice. I like that we're not, staying on that the swing around too long. Nice mechanics. Alright, so far mechanics aren't seeming like too much of an issue that needs to be worked on. So just us generally shooting at things is not too much of a problem.
Yeah, get ready for the world's longest stall. Right here.
World's longest what?
The world's longest stall. It's awful.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm. Very, very nice. Alright, so we have a Genji chasing us here. Let's see, what are we doing to get away from him? So we slam into him, and then we kind of roll around the point. Here, now that we're low and we don't have any abilities, this is where we might want to be playing a little bit more passive. Right, this is where we might want to start backing up a little bit, but we're kind of, here we run into the Genji. Make sure we're paying attention as well to, like, not grappling or trying to grapple into him when he's like an inch from us, right? Because he can just stop our momentum. So we have to pay attention to where the Genji's at. Because if Genji's here, we're just gonna get caught, right? And then that ruins our grapple, and then we're gonna die as a result. Probably, I would assume. Well, maybe we don't. Nice slam tech, I like it. So very, very close to dying just because we mess up our grapple there. Alright, so we need to pay attention to whether or not where our team is at, and also kill feed. So we have a few different things that ways that we could see we don't have our team. First off, we could look around us and see, okay, I don't have any teammates with me. We could press tab and see that, or we can look at the kill feed, and we're gonna go over kill feed watching because this is probably the best one, because you can see, even if you're not paying attention to anything, kill feed is always on your screen. All right. It's always going to be an option. You don't have to press tab. Tab is a button you have to press to see it, and seeing people around you, it might be a little bit hard sometimes to fully comprehend that. But kill feed makes it very condensed, very easy to tell. Okay, so basically how this works is when you are up 1 to 2 people in kill feed, that means that your team is at an advantage. When you have that advantage, you can play more aggressively because they have less people to shoot at you and less people to stun, less people to heal and tank, right? So therefore, you can get more aggressive. When you are up 2 to 3 people, that is pretty much a one fight. At that point, you no longer want to be using any ults, and you want to be playing super, super aggressively so that you can go in and get stagger kills. When you are down 1 to 2 people, it also goes the exact opposite way, right? When you're down 1 to 2 people, that is a disadvantage. Now, that doesn't mean that you lost the fight, but you are losing the fight, right? When you are down 2 to 3 people, that is a lost fight. When you have lost a fight, you don't want to use ults, and you want to look to get out if possible. And if you don't think that you can get out, you want to let them kill you, because otherwise you're going to do what you call staggering, and staggering is not very good. Are you familiar with the term staggering?
Yeah, I got
Yep.
yeah.
So right here, we are getting aggressive and swinging around doing stuff here when we have no teammates at all, right? We're in the situation we are literally 1v6ing, right? 1 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which means that we are probably going to end up dying. We're feeding them a lot of ult charge. If we do die here, we're going to be wasting time for our team, or if they don't wait for us, if they just go in without us, which is probably, they're look at where they at. Like if we died right now, they'd probably just go in without us, because that's what happens a ton, even at higher ranks, right? And then now they're going to be going in when they only have 4 people, right? Because they're down you and Ana, and then that means that they're going in when they're pretty much already at a lot, like that they're probably walking into a lost fight if they're going in when it's a 4v6, right? So that starts stagger trains, because then they die and then you go in without them again, right? So you just don't want to start those by staggering yourselves. And here we just want to pay attention to our surroundings, which comes in kind of the awareness category. So here we're just in here for way, way too long, right? We die, means we got little to none value, while also meaning that putting our team at a disadvantage, making them wait for us. Now we did get a pick, but that could have been pretty poor for us. Now here, take a look at this. Can you make that jump even without? It looked like we were about to make that jump even without it.
I think you can.
Yeah. Oh, he got booped up in the air. Right.
Administered.
Alright, so we're becoming a little bit too obsessed with the swing around. We've been doing that quite frequently. Just keep in mind that it's usually a pretty ineffective strategy to do that, as when you do that, it's fairly easy for people to just go, oh, a ball swinging, let's just, not stand in it. The only way that gets value is if people just walk into you, which it will happen. I'm not saying that won't happen, especially when you have a ton of people on point. But what we need to do when we're doing that is identify our surroundings. So we need to be aware again, right? So look at where is the enemy team at. When there's literally no enemy, like maybe there's one person on point, then us swinging around is just wasting a ton of time where we could be intentionally swinging at somebody, like specifically targeting them, or when we could be slamming or shooting or doing something other than just swinging on nothing, because we've done this a lot where we're just kind of swinging, and maybe booping someone once in a while, but it's not getting as much value as if we intentionally boop someone. So what you can do is, to make this more effective, is you can start, if you know there's a ton of people on point and you're going to be hitting someone no matter what, then go ahead and do it. But if you're starting this off and you see, oh, there's nobody around me, then what you do is you swing around like one more time and you cancel it and roll into the person and swing into the person you're trying to go for, right? So we would, like here when we're swinging around, we go. Okay, so again, by the way, here's a time where we just kind of sat around and didn't do anything again, where we could have been like, shooting at fit. And we kind of, first off, we kind of like ran around the corner even before the bomb happened. We just kind of like walked over here, right? Bomb's not happening, and we just kind of went and rolled around the corner here for a little bit. And then and then we just kind of sit around, so that's just like 5 seconds wasted. We didn't do much. And then here when we start swinging around the circle, right, we have to take a look at where are they at, right? And then when we see there's nobody on point, right? There's literally one tracer on point. Then we do one more swing around, and then maybe we like launch, and then we launch ourselves at like the Lucio and the Doomfist, right? That's something we can do. Just we need to identify our surroundings because here we do that. We're doing this quite frequently. We're just kind of swinging around on nothing. And when you're going for your ult, we're gonna look to do our standard combo when we're doing that. Which your standard kind of combo that you're doing on your ball is just grapple up in the air, slam, and then shoot at them. But when we're mining, we're gonna grapple up, ult, and then slam. So this does two things for us. Sometimes this will now this might be it might actually sometimes be a little bit more harmful here because it might get caught up in the sky. But usually what that's going to do is it's going to spread them out, right? And it means that it's harder to it's like it's more spread out and it's going to hit more people. But then the big main thing it does for you is it adds on more damage and it clumps them all together. So it means that they're all going towards the center of the mines instead of being on the edge of the mines, which gets you more kills. Now, when two out of the three that we've used have been without slams, and I'd recommend intentionally looking for slam, especially when we have both of the abilities here, right? And if you didn't feel like so like when we get it here, we have it on slam on 1 second. Yeah, we have it when we get it. So we just want to make sure we're using it. We could just pretty easily, grapple up using this, or we're at 630, right? The other thing we could do is just go for on that another tech here when we're using it that I'll demonstrate in a moment. So this is going to be useful when there is like basically nothing to slam off of and you don't want a long setup. Sorry, excuse me, I had some people in the room. So this is like, for example, like whenever you're trying to slam, you have to like kind of go somewhere. But let's say we're trying to slam immediately, like where we're standing. Like if we're on point and there's nothing to slam off of, we would grapple here. We're grappling and rolling backwards and jumping, and then this gives us enough height to slam. So it's gonna this, right? That's how you can kind of slam in place immediately without needing a kind of a wind up time of swinging around something, right, to get enough height. So again, it's you're rolling backwards, grappling and jumping at the same time, right? So roll backwards, jump. Oh, I messed that up there. So we can maybe like swing forwards and backwards here to do it, right? But you can just practice that in the training range if you wanted to at some point. But roll, jump, right? So that's how you can do that. But your basic combo when it comes to mines is we're gonna kind of swing up in the air so that we get the slam in, right? As well as keep in mind that there's a whole lot of stuff that you can slam off of. Now, there's not as much on that map. Like you can slam off the edges, of course. Like I saw you doing this where you're going off the edges. But keep in mind, there's a whole lot to slam off of besides just the edges. Like we can slam off of almost anything. Like we can slam off of this thing right here. You can see it on the bottom right if you just want to pay attention to that. Or you can just see it comes off a cooldown. That way I don't have to keep slamming. But we can do it off of this thing. Like even here, we could just roll up on this and slam off of that thing. Right, just because it's enough of a dip. We can come over here, slam off of this. We can slam off of like a stairway or a ramp. We can slam off of a high ground. We can just slam off of this little thing. We can, I think maybe you're able to slam off of these boxes, if I'm not mistaken. No, we're not. All right. But I know you can slam off of this thing, I'm pretty sure. Right, because this height, right? So there's a whole lot of stuff that you can slam off, and we just want to look for those because that means that we have, whenever you're able to slam without using a grapple, that's usually going to be better because now you have grapple to get away, to deal extra damage, right? So we just want to, whenever it's an option, we can just normally, right, without it, and then that way we can follow up with shooting. And then your basic combo when it comes to ulting is we're going to grapple up in the air, right? We're going to ult, we're going to slam. All right, this gets it spread out a little bit. This slams them in towards the center. And if you can't, you can also just do it off of like a ledge like this. You can just ult and then slam this, right? Or you can do what we were talking about before and just go like this and go up in the air and slam, right? Or I probably like ult and then slam. Are all options, right? Now, yeah. So we are like halfway through the session. So why don't we, since the round just ended, we can do a quick kind of strengths and weaknesses of what we're looking at so far. So where were we at before? We were right at the end, I believe, right? Or actually, no, we just ulted. So why don't we finish the round? So were we at this point? Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just see what happens, and then we'll do a strengths weaknesses after this, because I imagine the round's about to end. Oh, it's unfortunate. Yeah. Woo! Wow. All right. Made it out. Hardcore master here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Here, when we see that Zen's trancing, then we can just keep swinging because we don't want to get aggressive on anything when he's trancing like that, right? So that's a good decision to just keep swinging. But once it ends, then we want to slam, right? Yep, exactly. Very nice. Okay. Target priority. All right, so we'll just go over target priority real quick. Target priority is making sure we're shooting at the right things. In general, tanks aren't what we want to shoot at very often. Tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have shields, they have movement abilities and tanking abilities, right? On top of that, DPS and supports just have more statistical output. So tanks are a very important role, but DPS do the damage and supports do the healing, whereas tanks, their job is to create space for the other roles, right? So here we're when we have an equal opportunity to go on something or the other, we always choose the better thing to go for. So that means in this scenario, if we can choose to go on the ball or go on the Zenyatta, we go on Zenyatta, no questions asked, right? Now there are situations where we do go on tanks. So that's not to say that we never shoot at them ever. We go on tanks when they're low, when they're out of position, when like there's nothing else to shoot at. But a lot of times on ball, there's not there's not going to be times where you couldn't shoot at them. But that'd be like, for example, if you're on a different tank and you just don't have access to get to the supports or DPS. But on ball, you can almost always just get to the backline. Excuse me. All right, so here we slam on the tracer. I think that's all right. That's fine. But then here in a moment, right, we kill the tracer. We see the Zen on our right side here, right, and then we just kind of shoot at the ball and mess up our swing, and then we go to the Lucio, and then we go to the ball, right? Just not really shooting at the best, most effective things here. When a Baby Diva or a Zenyatta, which would be much easier targets to kill. Very nice slam there. I like that you're pre-aiming up in the air. That's great. So that's good crosshair placement. Okay. Might want to just swing off the middle. That might just be an easier one to go for most of the time here. Yeah, you don't necessarily need to keep swinging around the middle, but you could just pretty easily just use that to hit somebody once. Okay, shooting at ball. Alright, and I got booped off there. So let's see, what happened there? We were trying to get away from the bomb. Just keep in mind that we also have this direction to go as well. All right, this gets us maybe to a safe area. Usually when you're on boot maps, for the most part, boops can only happen if you give them permission, right? Most of the time, now not all the time, right? But most of the time, you're only going to be able to get booped if you're standing near the edge, right? So when we have the option to, for example, go right side here, where we could dodge the bomb using this middle pillar, where we could just, go anywhere in this large, open, massive land, versus, going to the one place where it's easiest to boop us, right? Where it's just out on the edge here. We just want to pick the better route. So it is kind of decision making here. It's just, go right side, not left side. Now, if left side's the only place we could go, then go left side. But it's not the only place we could go here. So we just have both options available and we choose the wrong option, right? That makes us booped, right? And then we're dead. Now, okay, finally ended. So we talk strengths and weaknesses. So we're just going to go around the clock here. Ability usage, I don't see as being too terrible. We're just going, like, honestly, ability usage I think is just slightly inconsistent. I think grapple needs a little bit of work. Like in general, maybe grappling and slamming a little bit more often, using them in better scenarios. But I don't think that they're really like insanely terrible. So maybe we're gonna putting them in like the inconsistent category, or maybe like a medium amount of work on them. Right, ults. I've seen 3, and most of them have good placement. I like the timing of them, but we're also not doing the combo correctly, and a lot of time we're not slamming with them. So that's just again, I probably say that's even ults are even a little bit lower than our ability usage on the scale of what we need to work on, right? But still there, we still need to work on it. Which is probably going to be most things. Now, positioning isn't usually too big of a deal on ball. To be honest. So we're not really gonna get into positioning too much here. Yeah. Then when it comes to awareness, that is something that is needing a lot of work on it, as there's been multiple instances where we made poor decisions based on awareness. Now, awareness is usually one that takes a little bit longer to find out, but being 30 minutes in and already seeing that awareness has been led to multiple mistakes can usually indicate that it's gonna keep happening. So awareness is a big one to make sure paying attention to so far. And then finally, mechanics. I think mechanics is probably on tier with maybe like mine usage. Is that it's so far it's looking pretty good, but there are maybe there's always room for growth and improvement. And then play style. I don't add in the play style as a category, but I'll add it in here in place of kind of positioning. Because that this is something we're struggling with. Is just making sure we're doing things more often, and we're constantly trying to go in and do things. We're not kind of AFKing, or we could even honestly, to make it usually I'll instead of playstyle, I'll shove that into the mechanics category because it involves shooting things and doing things. Usually I stick with those 5 categories, so that's what we'll do here. So just know when I say mechanics, one of the big things so far that we're working on with mechanics is just making sure we're doing things more often, right? So that would be actions per minute, as there's been a lot of downtime where we're not really doing much. So that would bring the mechanics up a little bit more of needing to work on it. All right. Okay, wrong target to focus on first here, because we're coming in here again slightly. Okay, so never mind, our team's not with us, so honestly this delay is fine. But notice the first thing we're shooting at here when we slam is the Zarya, right? The one thing that has twice health, has bubble, is gonna get pocketed the easiest, right? Whereas Moira is right next to her with I think she just used Fade, right? So Moira would be a much easier target to go for, but we're sticking on the Zarya, right? Which probably isn't who we should be going on. And then you just see that she never dies here, right? She just has so much survivability just because we're focusing and trying to kill the wrong thing, right? Now, like, if we were just like to put like, we just take a look at their team comp and go, if you were to take a look at that comp that they have, who would be the easiest things to try to kill?
Probably the Moira, as long as she doesn't have fade,
Hmm?
would be the quickest.
Yep.
Because Lucio can boop, he has self heal, and so he gets a little bit more difficult to deal
Yep.
with. But
And he's really fast as well.
yeah,
Yep. So definitely Moira would be the easiest thing to kill. I'd probably say on their team comp, Ball would probably be the most difficult thing for you to kill. Then I would probably put like Zarya like right under that, unless you see that she's already starting off low, right? That's fine, right? But then I'd probably say Zarya comes after that. Doomfist is honestly going to be decently easy for you to kill because he has such a big hitbox, so like most of your shots are going to hit. Pharah becomes Pharah and Lucio maybe are kind of evenish, right? And being a little bit harder to kill here. So that's just kind of where they'll stand. Make sure trying to focus the things that we can kill like the easiest, not focusing on the things that are like one of the hardest things to kill on their team. All right, now we're also going to talk about, we're at 9 minutes here. We're going to talk about some crosshair placement stuff. So this is some more stuff to add into the mechanics category. Are you familiar with the term crosshair placement?
yeah.
Yeah, so far I think we have one of them down really well, and that's the second half to it. So I'll just talk about it real quick. But crosshair placement is just placing your crosshair in the best place possible to hit the most shots. We have this part down, the second part, and that is aiming where you know people are going to be. So if we know the bot's top left, we're going to pre-aim top left so that we can hit that shot really easily. The way that I see you doing this really well is that when we're slamming, we're already up and when we are slamming. Oh, there's no one here now. When we are we're looking up in the air already, so that's indicative of good crosshair placement. So that's really good. But then the second thing I want to work on here for crosshair placement, or at least usually I put this as the first thing, is making sure we're aiming head level. Most of the time here we're walking around kind of looking down, and then that means that when we come out of mech we're looking down, right? So instead we want to make sure we're aiming head level, especially when we're coming out of our mecha or whatever we call this thing. I never know what to call it, deballing,
Yeah,
but
I think usually people just say ball form or something.
yeah, ball form. Yeah. So in any case, right, we want to make sure we're aiming at head level because obviously headshots do a whole heck of a lot more damage than body shots do, right? It goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, right? Twice the amount of damage. So we want to make sure we're hitting headshots, not body shots. And a lot of times we're aiming here. And when we do that, headshots become a much more difficult to hit because we have to adjust a further distance, right? Anytime we have to adjust a further distance, that's going to make the shots harder to hit than if we're just already aiming here. All right, these shots become a lot easier to hit because we have to adjust less, right? So on top of that, that's going to make our default body like our default shooting hitting headshots, not bodies, right? So if we're turning this corner, we're just shooting into shields or spamming down a corridor or whatever. All these shots are just hitting body shots. So if we're aiming head level, now all these shots are now hitting head level because we're already aiming at that head level. Right, so we just want to make sure that we're aiming head level. Like even when we're, when we're just shooting at people normally, or even when we're slamming too, right? We're not aiming at body level, but we're trying to hit those headshots, right? Not just settling for body shots because you're doing literally twice the amount of damage, right? So that's just something to make sure we're focusing on there. And then we probably just go ahead and hop back into the game. All right, so we were Lijiang.
Now arriving at Yijang Tower. Ready.
Oh. So here, we probably should have slammed the Lucio after we booped him out there. So here we kind of, what we do is we boop Lucio. This isolates him. This puts him off on his own, right? We go boop, right? This puts him off on his own. He doesn't have team support. Even like we don't see the Moira because she's invisible right here, but Moira is also here and she's like half HP, right? But instead we kind of do like we could have slammed immediately here and just shot at them, but then we kind of like do a backtrack and come back in. So again, it's just kind of some wacky decision making when these guys like are gonna be among the easier targets to kill on their team, yet we kind of ignore them when they're isolated on their own. Like we talked about, like, things that are low, things that are isolated and not with their team are the easier things to kill, right? Those are things that we want to intentionally focus. And here, Moira's half and Lucio and Moira are both on their own, right? So these are easy targets to kill, and we kind of like roll back to point where now we're going to back to the targets that are a little bit harder to hit, right? Slamming here's fine, but we just probably should have done it a little bit earlier. And then again, we're focusing the ball. Nice boop on the Moira. Good mines, good. We're not holding on to it. We're not using it in a won or lost fight. We're using it early as soon as we get it. But again, the only thing is that we're not slamming. And this is really great placement. We just could have slammed into it. That's literally the only thing, right? That we could have done better. So honestly, mines are looking fantastic. It's the only thing I would add on to them is just making sure we're slamming after we're mining. Okay, there. If we're gonna be outside of the fight for that long, you might as well just grapple to get back to the fight faster. And it's only a 5-second cooldown. That's about how much time we took to go run and grab those health packs. So by the time we got back here, we'd probably be like 1 second off the cooldown, right? So that just speeds up the process. Means we get back to the fight faster. Don't be afraid to just use it for mobility. Oh snap! This is the first fight still. I didn't even realize it was the first fight. Okay. Nice usage of health packs. I like that. Oh, I would have probably used that boop to like look for opportunities other than just using grapple to land slams, because you pretty much want to be using slam whenever it's an option, right? Now you're going to want to slam a little bit less if you know that they have a super high stun comp, right? But looking at their comp, they have literally one stun for you, right? And he's not even among these people that you're on right now, right? So we pretty much want to be slamming as much as possible because it's a very high damage output that ability that sets up for a kill very easily, right? So here, like for example, when ball boops us up in the air, we could have slammed here. When we swing and get booped by, watch this, we get booped up by the Lucio, right? We could have slammed here, right? Instead, we kind of go for a grapple into nothing, and then we come back, and that's just waste, and then we get booped, and then just waste a lot of time where we're not doing anything. Here we want to just as soon as we see it miss that first time, just let go of it. Like that's just a good habit to get into, of like when you see something's not working, you probably just let go, right? It's not, don't keep trying at it. That sometimes that apply, like not all the time, but sometimes that'll also apply when you're like stuck in the well and you can't get out, right? But here, like we swing down, we see Lucio boots us, we we see that we bounce off the window here. I'd maybe try it one more time. I'd maybe go for this, but when we bounce off that second time, I'd be done. But instead, we go for a third, and then we finally done. So I'm just saying the first or second time drop it, not the third time, right? Nice slam. That's the type of stuff that I was talking about, right? Just capitalizing on when other people boop you. So that was really good. Very nice. All right, unfortunate. All right, so let's see what we got to be careful when we know that they have boops as well, because they do have 3 different boops, right? Farah, Ball, Lucio. All right, we gotta be careful of boops. So here, probably don't want to let go of our grapple, because we know that Lucio could potentially boop us here. But when we let go of our grapple, that makes us easily boopable by both the Farah and Lucio. So there, identify what team. This comes in on awareness again of 2 different types of awareness, or 2 different parts of awareness, right? First off, what team comp and characters are we up against, right? Every single character in the game, whether on our team or the enemy team, is going to change how we're playing slightly. So team compositions dictate your playstyle. When we know that they have boop characters, we're playing slightly different than if they didn't have boop characters, right? If they didn't have boop characters, that would not have mattered one bit. But because of the fact that they have a bunch of boop characters, that matters. The second thing is, again, awareness of where is the enemy team positioned, right? Where are they at? If there were no boop characters anywhere near us, that would have been fine. Let's say it was Reaper, Zarya, and Moira right here, and Lucio, Ball, and Farah were all the way over here, right, on the other side of the map. That would have been perfectly fine because they're not going to boop you. But when we know that they're right next to you, that makes it very easy. All right, 1 second. My little sister just crawled into the room. I want to go get rid of her.
All right.
All right, I'm back. So yeah, just want to make sure that we're paying attention to our surroundings, because awareness is seeming like it's probably top in the charts here of things that we want to work on. Okay, so we have another ult.
Огонь по готовности.
Yeah, probably look to slam more often. Like, how long? How long is the cooldown? I want to see next time you slam. It's like 12 seconds.
8.
8 seconds?
Yeah, no, it might be. Yeah, I think it's closer. 10 or so.
Yeah, maybe it's 10.
Not sure.
Because we're just slamming very infrequent. Okay, so it's 10 seconds. Yep. So it's a 10-second cooldown. Therefore, we should probably see it if we skip by like intervals of 20. It just seems like it's a 10-second cooldown, right? You're getting it back pretty frequently, right? You're gonna have it a lot. So in a fight, you're gonna have it multiple times, and it just seems like we're not using it as often as we should. I just want to reiterate here: it's a very, very powerful cooldown. It does, I believe, like 120 damage. As
I think it's 100 in the center, and then it scales out
all
depending on
right,
how
yep.
far.
I think it might be slightly higher than 100. Well, we can test it next time we go to the training range
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
But I believe it might be slightly higher than like exactly 100. But
Yeah.
in any case, it's doing 100 plus damage, right? On top of that, you're also doing it to multiple people because it's a radius around you, and you're booping people up in the air, which makes them easier for your team to kill as well as you to kill, and then you're able to combo that and follow it up with just shooting them in the head, right? Because they're when you're in the air, they can't control their movement, right? When you're falling, they can't do anything but fall straight down. So it's very easy to track, very easy to know where they're going to be. So it just becomes very easy kills. And we're just not doing it very frequently. So I'd like to see that being used more frequently. Nice tracking. Right, well, I guess we're going to go real quick. Let's just do that and see how often we're using it. And then we're going to hop into the last portion of this session. So we skip back to the beginning. So right, so we have slam, we have slam, we don't have slam, we have slam, we have slam, we have slam, we don't have slam, we don't have slam, right? We have slam, 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 right? We don't have slam, we don't have slam, we do have slam, right? You see, basically, you get the point. We have slam a lot, and we don't use it, right? We just want to make sure we're using it more often, just because it's a very powerful ability and cooldown. Now here we're going to leave and go to doing a quick review, as well as going over what are the main points of today's session, and then the wrap up from there. So just real quick, if you can test out how much damage this does some people, right? So let's see, is it over half their health? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay, no, it's exactly 100. So you're right. Yep. So 100 damage that gets followed up very fast by like some shooting and meleeing. Right. You can also, potentially also boop people and then slam, which adds even more damage. So if we like boop this person, oh, never mind, we completely missed it. All right. Let's try that again. All right. So we boop somebody and then slam them. Actually, I miss it. Right. Again. So I'm terrible at this. I apologize for my rusty ball skills. Right. So we could potentially also boot people and then slam them, and then that does even more damage, right? Right, like that, right? That puts them even lower. All right, so just keep in mind, use it often. And now moving on to, we'll just go around the clock here. I talk about the different abilities. Grapple, make sure we're getting a little bit, like again, I probably say grapple just needs consistency. We're using it fine, we're using it frequently. It's just that the fact that we often are getting caught on stuff, right? We're kind of like, we're doing this where we're kind of like, we're stuck and we just keep doing this and back and forth, right? And that's kind of what it looks like. If make sure you're kind of letting when you're trying to go, like when you're trying to go forwards, you're just letting go of it as you're about to cross that point. So if we're trying to go straight forwards here, we're letting go as we're about to pass parallel to it, right? If we're trying to go this way, we're letting go as we're about to pass parallel to it again, right? So just keep in mind that's how the grapple works. On top of that, don't keep swinging in circles. Like, don't just keep doing this if there's no one here that you're booping. Instead, you can see, okay, I'm not booping anyone on this go around right here. I'm gonna. Oh, it's not. This is not working too well for me. But on this go around here, I'm gonna let go and then I'm gonna go slam something. Right. So we're just looking for something to do. We're not just continuously rolling around it. Besides that, no problem with our shield usage. At least maybe I should have been paying attention to that, but I didn't. I don't think I had an issue with that. Then maybe deballing a little bit more so that we can actually shoot at things, because there were sometimes where we're sitting around like kind of just rolling, not really doing much. All right, now moving on to mechanics. In the actually, sorry, we'll do ult usage first. Ult usage actually looking very solid. Absolute only thing I would say is just slam while you're ulting, right? Is ult and then and then slam right after you ult, right? That follows it up. It boosts them towards the center, does extra damage, right? Other than that, you time it well. You don't hold on to it. You use it when you don't use it when you've won or lost a fight, right? So all that's all good. Now mechanics, a few different things. First off, make sure we are aiming head level, right? Not aiming at bodies. We're trying to get that headshot damage in, so make sure we're doing that. Other than that, really good pre-aiming and pretty decent just general tracking and general mechanics, but just making sure that we're hitting headshots when we're going for shots, and we're constantly aiming there. Then in that category as well, we're going to put a pretty big thing, or two other things here, is target priority. Make sure that we're shooting at, the easiest things to kill at, which are a lot of times they're going to be the DPS supports, not the tanks. Right? Also, they're the highest value to kill. Right? And then on top of that, we want to make sure that we're upping our actions per minute. Right? So trying to do things as much as possible. So we're constantly grappling, constantly slamming, constantly shooting at stuff when we're able to. Of course, we're not going to do that when we don't have abilities. We're not going to do that when we are very low HP, and we're not going to do that when we don't have our team available. But those are the instances where we don't do it. We do want to be doing it when none of those things are holding, because there are a bunch of times where we were just kind of sitting around when we had health, when we had our abilities, when we had our team, and we're just kind of rolling, right? So we want to make sure we're being aggressive when we have a reason to be aggressive, and we're passive when we have a reason to play passive, right? Now, and then in general, you're just slightly too passive. Now, and there's sometimes where we got too aggressive, like when we went in without our team, but just as a general thing here, we're playing like maybe like 60% passive, or maybe I wouldn't say 60, but in any case, we'll just put a number, right? 60% passive, 40% aggressive. When you want it to be closer to like 50-50. Actually, never mind. I'm regretting my numbers here. I'm going to change them. Just keep in mind, like, I don't want you to do a complete 180 here, right? I don't want you to just go from playing passive to constantly feeding. That's definitely not what I want you to do. I want you to just pay attention to when is it a good time to play passive, when is it a good time to play aggressive, right? And you just want to up it a tiny little bit, right? Play aggressive a bit more, because so far it's just looking like we're a bit too passive, right? Now we'll move on to what was last? Awareness, right? I think this is the last one here. We're not going to go over positioning much. That's not really a thing on control points, especially for a character like Ball. Most other characters, it will be a thing, though. Now, awareness, there's a lot of different types of awareness. You have HUD awareness. I don't think we struggle too much with HUD awareness. You have watching kill feed. Kill feed we did struggle with a little bit, right? Make sure we're paying attention to whether or not we've won or lost a fight. That's going to indicate, whether or not we get aggressive or play passive, or we go in or we go out, right? So pay attention to whether or not you're winning or losing, just as a quick refresher. 1 to 2 is an advantage or a disadvantage. You play aggressive or passive based off on that. When you're 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. You don't ult in a won or lost fight, though you didn't struggle with that. And you also want to look to get out if you lost a fight, right? You want to look to get out or die, right? If you won a fight, you play super aggressive to capitalize, right? Also, just don't go in when it's a 1v6, right? Now, on top of that, on awareness, big one was paying attention to where is the enemy team at, right? And on top of that, on a smaller note for you, is still included there, is where's our team at, right? That was another thing, is just paying attention to where's the enemy team, where is my team. Don't go in when you don't have your team, and really pay attention to where the enemy team is, because that resulted in a whole lot of decision-making things where, like, we got booped off the map a couple times, we went in on the wrong targets and with target priority, right? So just make sure we're thinking about where the characters on the map are. We're not going to roll around and kind of do slow pans. Instead, we're going to make sure we're looking left or looking right, right? We're doing a 360 once in a while. We're paying attention to what's happening around us so that we can make better decisions, right? Now, on top of the, let's see, is there anything else we didn't talk about ults at all, in terms of like tracking or anything like that. And then I don't think we had any audio awareness or watching health bars and as a problem. All right, so now moving on to main points. I would probably say that, let's see. Trying to think of what we're gonna put at number one here. I think I'm going to put mechanics and all of the things that entails. So crosshair placement and then actions per minute and target priority. I'm gonna put that as number one, as there's a bunch of things that entail, like a bunch of things that kind of includes. Number two, I'm going to put at our awareness of our surroundings. Number three, I'm going to put at our ability usage. Just want to make sure we're using slam more often and grab a little bit better. And then finally, we're going to put our ulting at number four, with just a tiny little bit of work that needs to be done on it. Just slam more often, and then we don't really need to worry too much about positioning at all. Do you have any questions about anything we've gone over?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. So what's going to happen there? I just